Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 12 at Monmouth Park on a stakes-laden Saturday afternoon card. This race is the local prep for the Haskell. It is the Pegasus, going 1.16 miles, 3-year-olds. $150,000 is the purse. We have a pretty big field, Mike. We're going to take a look at it right now. Chad Brown sends in the Peter Pan third-place finisher, the 4 Electability, 9-5 on the morning line. Homebrew, a stakes winner at Oaklawn. Dash Attack won the prep for the Haskell. The Long Branch last time out. It's a pretty solid field.
Yeah, a lot of different ways to go here. Big field of horses that, personally, I feel like, Dan, they all have something to prove here. We'll see if any of them are Haskell worthy. Certainly not a bad spot for Electability to ship in here as the favorite. Still not sure how good that horse is, though.
I think that's a very fair case to be made, although as we take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, maybe one of his advantages is his speed, because while Cyber Viking is expected to make the lead on the pace projector, I'm not sure how quick that horse is. I think Electability is going to be aggressively ridden out of there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Florent Giroux has the same idea with Homebrew, the two.
Yeah, I thought both of them would be forward in this race as well, Dan. It does kind of feel like they're the two kind of right horses if you're looking for horses to beat in here. I don't think anybody's necessarily going to be afraid of them, but I do think they could get the right trips in this race.
The good news for the number 1 Cyber Viking is he's hit the board in 8 of 9 starts. The bad news is the one time he was off the board, well, that was the one time he tried Stakes Company in the Pasco. He's coming out of a starter optional claiming race at Gulfstream, going a 1-turn mile, his first route, which means this will be his first race around 2 turns. We're going to look at that race right now. Cyber Viking was down inside in the pocket. I think he actually banged off the rail on the far turn. He gets to the outside in the stretch. He runs just fine. But if I was going to pick him in the Pegasus, he needed to win this race.
I agree with you. And it's just not like this is, again, you're right, the first time that they, stretched him out in distance at all. And it's not like he's got some kind of big finish here, Dan, where you're feeling like, the added ground did him some favors. I don't know. Now he's got to stretch out again. I can see him falling into a really nice trip in this race. Not sure he's good enough. But listen, if he's a big price and you like him, he doesn't have a bunch of killers lining up to his outside.
And he does have some fairly competitive buyer speed figures, his last 2 in the low 80s. Homebrew is the number 2. He's only run 1 bad one, and there's a ready-made excuse right there on the page. Sloppy track in the Smarty Jones Stakes. He might not have liked the wet conditions. He bounced back in a big way to win the Oaklawn Stakes, going 1 mile and 1/8 last time out. And in that race, he was able to get pretty close to the pace, Mike, and he took things over, turning for home, and he won in professional fashion. I think this horse is okay for Brad Cox, and it's possible we've yet to see his best.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, he was handled with a lot of confidence in this race, too. First time going 9 furlongs, Jose Ortiz just sort of set him up 3 wide from the early stages of this race, took over in the stretch. He's not getting away from this field at the end, but he's winning it pretty comfortably. Another step in the right direction for him. He's got tactical speed. There are things to like here.
I'm a big fan of the 3 Mr. Jefferson. He's run some nice races in his career. I thought his Remsen last year was a little bit underrated. He made a big wide move into contention on the turn, and there's no disgrace in not being able to go with Mo Donegal and Zandon. He then caught wet tracks without Lasix, and I've talked to Michael Trombetta. This horse has had some bleeding issues. He needs his Lasix, and he's going to get it once again after his last 2 starts. Now, I was a little disappointed, Mike. He couldn't finish things off in the Tessio, although I guess his stablemate Joe is pretty good. And last time out in the Sir Barton, probably Ethereal Road is just better than he is, and I think the track worked against this horse.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. I didn't love his Sir Barton last time. Man, was he working hard from a long way out in that race. He still raced on pretty gamely. Never looked like he was going to win to me. But there's nothing wrong with that performance. I'm with you about his Tessio. I thought he ran well there. Didn't really see his excuse not to win. But listen, I still feel like this horse is a little bit underrated. I'm using him in this race.
The question that you posed at the beginning, how good is Electability, is really the key to this race, because he won his first 2 dirt starts, both 1-turn miles. The second one, a first-level allowance race, a race in which it looked like he was beat at the 8th pole, and he was able to come back. And I'm not sure whether that was a case of him winning it or the runner-up kind of giving it up, because we've kind of seen that act from the runner-up in his subsequent 2 races, haven't we?
Yeah, true enough. That horse just hasn't turned out to be very good, Looney Seaman. He did run well that day, but as you've mentioned, he probably should have won that race, and then he's come back since then. They're running 2 starter allowance races in New York, Dan, and he lost both of those at short prices. I don't know. This horse might be good, but I just have some concerns about, the quality of the 2 wins the 2 races that he did win off the layoff. And listen, he was third in the Peter Pan. You know, I guess he ran fine in that race, but he didn't run great. I don't know. How short a price do you really want on this horse?
It's a fair point. He did some chasing in the Peter Pan against the winner, We the People, who seemed to relish the wet conditions that day. He is very lightly raced, electability, and he has run some competitive Beyer speed figures. He's a contender in this race, especially because of his running style. But Mike, you posed the right question. How low do you want to go on the tote? No Need to Worry is up next. You can just draw a line through his last race, the Penn Mile. Even if he wants turf, he didn't need to want that turf. That boggy turf course took down a lot of horses. No Need to Worry was one of them. The problem is the Tessio 2 starts back. Well, he didn't have a good start. He really just didn't fire in that race. But he's getting Lasix again. Blinkers are coming off. He's going to need to improve.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty hard to make a case for, even in this race where it feels like you want to be trying to make cases for horses like this. They've run this horse in 3 stakes races on dirt so far, Dan. He hasn't come close in any of them.
King of Hollywood's won 2 of his last 3 starts. Maybe these connections a bit fortunate that a potential claim was voided by the vet 3 starts back for $30,000 because he came back and he won in Monmouth last time out, going a 2-turn mile. We're going to watch that race right now. This was a race that he's on the outside and he's moving into contention and he's going to dead heat for the victory. Now, this is an entry-level allowance. He was stepping up a bit in class. He was 8-1 in this race. He's going to have to run a little bit faster against tougher competition, but he's going the right way.
He is. I mean, maybe he'll improve again in this race. They spent a lot of time, you know, thinking this guy was a turf horse, Dan, and I guess they were a little bit wrong about that. Since they've moved him over to dirt, they are against weaker horses, but it does kind of feel like he just keeps getting better. Maybe he'll take another step forward here.
Trainer Kane Mcpeak had high hopes for the 7 Dash Attack after he won his first 2 starts, including the Smarty Jones at Oaklawn on New Year's Day. Then 3 sort of inexplicable bomb performances led to him showing up at Monmouth, getting Lasix, and getting a wet track. And he loves, loves, loves a wet track. Let's watch what Dash Attack did in the Long Branch Stakes last time out. He is now 3 for 3 on wet going. He made a very nice move into contention on the turn, and he's game to grind it out.
I liked this performance from him. He did, you know, sort of always look like he was going to run. They made a big 4-wide move with him on the turn. He is going to be able to eventually outfinish that game runner up there at the end. I thought he ran well in here. I did like his first couple of starts, but as you've already pointed out, Jen, those were all on wet tracks. And his races over fast dirt, they aren't nearly as good. I get that they're all in graded stakes races, but man, it felt like he should have done some running in at least one of those races, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It was disappointing to see some of those efforts, but it looks like at least Mcpeak got him back on the right track last time out. And this just seems like it's a spot where there are no killers, and he still has some improving perhaps left in the tank after only 6 starts. Cook Creek is up next, and I think you can make the argument that of the horses coming out of the Peter Pan, electability in this race might be the horse to beat. Cook Creek might be the horse to bet, because Cook Creek showed a lot of potential early in his career. He ran fine in the Nashua, not a strong race. He ran fine in the Jerome, not a strong race. And then the Withers was a disaster. And last time out in the Peter Pan, it was his first start off the layoff. They were asking him to go 1 mile and an eighth, and I think he gained a lot of fitness. Like he was in it until the quarter pole, and then I think the layoff took over.
That's what I thought. It was a little ambitious off the layoff. It was also probably a little too far for him, and he just got really tired at the end of that race. You could see him outside the 8th pole starting to go up and down in that race, Dan. I think he might have really needed it. He also gets his Lasix back on for this race. I liked his first 3 starts just fine. He's sort of the opposite of Dash Attack. This horse has now caught 3 straight wet tracks, and he just may not be quite as good over those kinds of surfaces. I mean, even in that Withers 2-back, he was never going to win that race. But man, breaking from post 11 while early voting is, you know, out there winging it on a fast pace, and this horse decided to try to go with him. He's chasing that horse around the first turn. He really paid the price that day.
He has more tactical speed than it might appear, friends. And I think Johnny Velasquez is going to use that speed getting out of the gate to find a good position in the first turn, hopefully without losing too much ground. Jamie Dreams completes the field, stepping up in class for Lou Linderoff a win at Parks in his first race around 2 turns. Now we're going to watch that race, mile and 70-yard event. It's an optional claimer, only a 74 Beyer speed figure. But again, this is a lightly raced, fairly well-bred horse who's won 2 of his last 3.
Yeah, nothing wrong with his performance. First time on the stretch. And he's got that pedigree where you sort of thought that maybe he would get better with more distance. And feels like he did get better to win this race, Dan. It's not, you know, the most impressive allowance win you're ever going to see. But it was certainly a step in the right direction for this horse.
Several sharp horses in this race. They're coming from, it seems, everywhere, whether it's Oaklawn or New York or right here in New Jersey. Before we get to our top picks, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Get all the latest DRFTV video offerings. Top pick time. We're going to the Peter Pan. You're going with Cook Creek, who's going to be a better price. I just wonder if electability has a little bit of a pace advantage.
He probably does. I'm not going to be surprised when this is just the right spot for electability and he wins here, Dan. I just don't fully trust him. Didn't really want a short price on him. And I thought there was enough to hold on to with Cook Creek at a price that I'm going to take a shot with him.
Same Quinella for us in here, Mike. 8437 for you, 4812 for me. It's the Pegasus on a really nice card at Monmouth on Saturday. Good luck.